Warning: this hacker group is hunting you on GitHub. Your GitHub account is a target. The code you clone, the tools you trust. They could be a trap. If you're a cybersecurity professional, a red teamer, or a developer, you are being actively hunted. And not by some low-level script kiddie, but by a sophisticated, financially motivated group running a massive campaign. They're turning our greatest asset, the open source community, into their personal hunting ground. Their main target is you, because compromising your account gives them the keys to the kingdom. Stick with me, because what I'm about to share could be the one thing that stops them from owning your machine, your credentials, and your entire network. The problem: a new breed of supply chain. Attack for years, we've been told to watch out for phishing emails and sketchy attachments. But what happens when the threat isn't in your inbox, but in your actual workflow? What happens when the very tools you rely on are weaponized against you? This is the reality of a new wave of supply chain attacks sweeping across GitHub. Researchers have been tracking a highly coordinated and dangerous campaign. They've dubbed the group behind it Water Curse, and it represents a terrifying evolution in how hackers operate. This isn't just one or two bad repositories. We're talking about a network of at least 76 GitHub accounts, all dedicated to one thing: distributing malware. And they aren't targeting just anyone. They are specifically going after cybersecurity professionals, penetration testers, and red teamers. Why? Because you are the ultimate prize. Getting access to a security expert's machine is the jackpot. It gives attackers privileged credentials, session tokens for sensitive platforms, and a trusted entry point to slip right past an organization's defenses. When a defender is compromised, the attackers become the defender, moving through a network with completely legitimate access. The whole campaign is insidious because it exploits the very foundation of open source: trust and collaboration. The attackers create GitHub repositories that look totally legit. They offer tools with tempting names: pen testing utilities, email bombers, security scrapers, things a security pro might actually search for. They are designed to blend in, to look like just another useful project, blurring the line between red team tooling and active malware. While this campaign was formally identified in mid-2025, evidence suggests its roots may go as far back as March 2023. This isn't a smash-and-grab job. It's a patient, calculated hunt that's been flying under the radar for years. The anatomy of the attack. So, how do they do it? How do they turn a simple Git clone into a full-blown compromise? The attack chain is clever, multi-staged, and built to evade detection every step of the way. It all starts with the lure. Imagine you're on GitHub, searching for a specific tool, maybe an SMTP bomber for a pen test, or a new rat for a red team exercise. You find a repository. It looks credible. It has a detailed README, maybe even a commit history that suggests it's being actively developed. You decide to clone it, open the project in Visual Studio, and hit Build. And just like that, the trap is sprung. The attackers don't hide their malicious code in some obvious executable. That's amateur hour. Instead, they embed it in the project's configuration files. Specifically, they use a feature in Visual Studio projects called a backtick. This is a command designed to run before the main code even compiles. A legitimate feature developers use for setup tasks, which makes it the perfect hiding spot. The second you try to build the project, this pre-build event executes. It doesn't launch a loud, flashy virus. Instead, it quietly runs a Visual Basic Script VBS file. That VBS script then acts as a dropper for the next stage, an obfuscated PowerShell script. This is where things escalate. The PowerShell script is a master of evasion. It reaches out to the internet to download an encrypted payload, often from a legit-looking service, to avoid suspicion. Once downloaded, it decrypts the payload on your machine, unleashing the true malware, often a sophisticated, electron-based binary. Now the malware is running on your system, and its first job is to dig in and hide. It uses a whole battery of advanced techniques, like anti-debugging tricks to stop security analysts from examining it, and UAC bypass methods to escalate its own privileges without triggering a security prompt. Then, it makes sure it can survive a reboot. It creates scheduled tasks or messes with registry keys to establish persistence. This means even if you restart your computer, the malware runs again, re-establishing its foothold. Some versions are even designed to actively disable security tools like Windows Defender and delete volume shadow copies to stop you from easily recovering your system. With persistence achieved, the malware gets to its real job, stealing your data. It acts as a highly efficient information thief, scraping your browsers for saved credentials, cookies, and history. But most importantly, it hunts for session tokens. These are the digital keys that keep you logged into services. It's looking for tokens for your cloud provider, your corporate accounts, and especially for platforms like GitHub and even ChatGPT. These tokens are then sent back to the attacker's command and control servers, often using legitimate services like Telegram or the file-sharing site GoFile to hide the traffic. With your session tokens, attackers don't need your password. They can hijack your active sessions and impersonate you, getting into your private repos, your company's source code, and anything else you can access. They are financially motivated, looking to steal credentials, hijack sessions, and sell that access to the highest bidder. Why this is a game changer. This campaign is so much more than just another piece of malware. It's a fundamental shift in the threat landscape. For decades, security pros have been the ones building the walls and hunting the attackers. Now, the roles are reversed. The hunters have become the hunted. The sheer scale of this operation is staggering. We're talking about dozens of weaponized GitHub accounts, potentially affecting thousands of developers and security pros who downloaded these tools in good faith. This is a supply chain attack aimed right at the heart of the security community. Think about the implications. If a red teamer downloads one of these Trojanized tools and uses it during an engagement, they aren't testing the client's security. They're actively deploying malware inside their network. They become an unwitting insider threat, a patient zero for the very breach they were hired to prevent. The act of doing their job becomes an attack vector. This whole thing fundamentally erodes trust in the open source ecosystem, which runs almost entirely on that shared trust. When you can't be sure if a security tool is actually a weapon aimed at you, it forces a complete reevaluation of how we find and vet our tools. The line between red team utilities and active malware has been deliberately blurred, making it incredibly hard for even seasoned pros to spot the danger before it's too late. How to protect yourself. This is a sophisticated threat, but it's not unstoppable. You can defend yourself, but it requires a change in mindset. You have to adopt a zero-trust stance, even with tools that seem to come from our own community. Here are the concrete, actionable steps you need to take right now. First, get ruthless about vetting open-source tools. Before you clone any repository, scrutinize it. Who's the author? Is the account brand new? Does it have a history of legit contributions, or just this one repository? Look at the commit history. Is it full of thousands of tiny, automated updates? That's a red flag attackers use to make a repo seem active. Second, and this is critical, inspect the code before you build or run it. You don't have to read every single line, but you absolutely must check the build scripts and project files. Open up those .csproj or .vcxproj files in a text editor. Look specifically for backticks or backticks tags. If you see long obfuscated scripts, especially PowerShell or VB script commands, that's a huge warning sign. Close it down and delete the repo. Third, sandbox everything. Never download a new tool from GitHub and run it directly on your main machine. Use a dedicated, isolated virtual machine for testing and analysis. Let the malware show its hand in an environment where it can't do any real damage. This is standard procedure for malware analysis, and it should now be standard for vetting any new tool. Fourth, beef up your defenses. Traditional antivirus isn't enough to stop these multi-stage script-based attacks. You need a modern security stack. Using a managed detection and response, or MDR, solution can be a game changer. These services monitor endpoint behavior for the exact tactics, techniques, and procedures we've discussed, like PowerShell launching weird child processes or making strange network connections, and can flag or block the attack before your data is stolen. Finally, practice impeccable credential hygiene. Use a password manager and turn on multi-factor authentication everywhere, especially on GitHub. Be aware that session tokens can still be stolen, so regularly review authorized applications and sessions in your account settings. If you see a device or session you don't recognize, revoke it immediately. The threat landscape is always changing, and the best defense is sharing what we know. If you found this breakdown useful, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We release deep dives like this regularly to keep you ahead of the attackers. And please, share this video. Send it to a colleague, a classmate, or anyone you know who works in development or cybersecurity. The awareness you spread could be the very thing that prevents a devastating compromise. If this was helpful, please hit the subscribe button for more cyber tips and tricks. The rise of campaigns like Watercurse is a stark reminder that in cybersecurity, nobody is untouchable. The trust we put in platforms like GitHub is being systematically weaponized against us. We, the defenders, are now prime targets because our access is just that valuable. This demands a new level of vigilance. It demands that we treat every piece of code, every tool, and every repository with a healthy dose of professional paranoia. We have to inspect, isolate, and validate before we trust. The fight for cybersecurity has come to our front door, to our own command lines. Be vigilant, stay skeptical, and stay safe.